Hello and welcome back to another big edition of the NBL1 show thanks to Coles Express. I'm Megan Hustwaite. This is Pete Hooley. Pete, it is freezing outside, but the action inside the stadiums is hot.
Well, it is. I mean, again, we say it every week, but unbelievable dunks this weekend. Game winners, half-court shots from everywhere. So NBL1 is in full swing. There are some massive team performances, massive individual performances, and a lot to talk about.
Two cracking guests coming up today. Looking forward to chatting to both of them. We don't play favourites, but we kind of have favourites too, and these two are definitely some of our favourites.
I think we've got a lot of favourites in the league, but yes, these are two great characters and two great basketballers.
But there's plenty happening around the league, also for our NBL1 players, and we're going to see a whole lot of them in action for the Boomers this weekend in Melbourne, which is awesome.
Super exciting on ESPN and KO. The Boomers, the young guys, going to be running around. A lot of them from the NBL1 guys. We know Mitch McCarron's been there, Jack McVeigh, Sam Froll and Keanu Pinder. Their opportunity to wear the green and gold at the national level is going to be exciting. Thursday, Friday, the first two games, Sunday in the World Cup qualifiers, so make sure you watch them and support them. And
then a trio of Sandringham players have been selected for New Zealand, which is fantastic.
And they had big games on the weekend, Shaylee, Smith Milner and Dion Prewster, so well done to them. And another one that, yes, they might be playing for New Zealand, but everybody sees what they do in the NBL and NBL1, so we're supporting them as well.
Yeah, they're still ours. And our Opals are in camp this week ahead of the World Cup in Sydney this September, and that includes the GOAT, Lauren Jackson, Albury-Wodonga's own, who has one selection in the Opals squad and will be taking part in the camp this week at the ripe old age of 41.
It was strange. We sat here last week and then for some reason someone had to run off from the show after we recorded to break some sort of news, and I didn't know what it was going to be, but it was well broken by you. Good story. And yeah, what an unbelievable story it is. We wanted it. We spoke to her a few weeks ago. We were calling for her to make the push. I'm sure she wanted to deep down, but I think there's going to be a range of emotions that she's going through this week.
For sure. She hinted about it in that interview.
No doubt about it.
I think we looked at each other when she said it.
She did, but just imagine all of it happening now in the whirlwind of the past 7 days, and to be able to be there at camp, and it would be an unbelievable feeling for what she's going through, but I'm sure there's a lot more nerves than she expected.
Yeah, so the camp finishes Thursday in Canberra, which is great news because it means all of the Opals will be back in NBL1 this weekend, so we don't lose them for a week.
That's all we want.
Which is fantastic. Let's start now with a look at NBL1 North and the women's action. Speaking of Opals, Australian superstar Alana Smith made her NBL1 debut for the Townsville Flames and she dominated Pete.
She had 31 points, 14 rebounds. What a great story it is coming in for the Flames. They won 107-75 over Cairns. And a big shout out also to Courtney Woods. She had 39 points for Townsville in the win.
She's doing so well. She had a breakout season in the second half for Townsville in the WNBL. We talk about NBL1 being a platform and the things she's doing this season, setting her up for another great WNBL season. Speaking of great seasons, the Logan Thunder continue to dominate at the top of the ladder. They are undefeated at 9-0 after beating Southwest Metro 92-71, and a familiar name is putting up big numbers as usual.
Is she what? Michaela Roof said on the show that she wants to put the North on the map and being the best, the toughest conference in the country. She had 29 points and 27 rebounds, while India Boyer had 21 points in 21 minutes off the bench. That is the ultimate green light.
Shyla Hill is back for the third place Northside Wizards, which is great. She's had glandular fever. They easily took care of the Salties, 114-58. She had 13 points and 4 assists, but her teammate Tiana Mangakar here, we're talking about her every week. She is putting up huge stat lines and she led the way again with a triple-double, 24 points, 11 rebounds and 12 assists as we move into NBL1 North men's action, Pete.
Well, it was a top 4 battle, but Darwin Salties, they took down the Northside Wizards, who they were missing Mitch McCarron and Keanu Pinder. They're at Boomers duty, but the Salties had 3 players score 20 or more. Tad Dufamai almost had a triple-double, 20 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. Enjoying himself up there. Another one who wants to get that solidified contract in the NBL, and he always does big things in the NBL1.
Ipswich pulled off a really important win over Red City with the Forces' Ryan Jeffries hitting the game-winning layup after being left wide open, and it keeps Ipswich in the hunt for the finals.
Well, there's the highlight there. Left wide open is a bit of an understatement. The coaches loves, the bench loves it because you draw up a play, and whether it was a read or part of it, the defence just absolutely fell asleep from Red City. But again, when you're a coach and that happens in any situation where you could draw up something in a game winner, you just go back that night and be like, I am in the right profession. I know what I'm doing. It was a well drawn up play. Defence, not so much, but you'll take that.
Love the bench and love the coach with that.
Yeah, it's a little mini chainsaw. You don't want to get too carried away. You don't want to take too much of the credit for that.
Oh, I love that. The Gold Coast Rollers remain on top of the ladder after beating the North Gold Coast Seahawks 99-92. Love a bit of a Gold Coast face-off.
Yeah, a nice little rivalry brewing up there. Early days, but it's going to continue to get bigger. Jason Kadee, he had 35.6 assists. What a season he's putting together. While Tamari Wigness and Geordie Hunter had 25 points each for the Seahawks.
Well, one of those stars joins us now on the NBL1 shows. We head north and welcome Jordan Hunter to the show. Welcome, Geordie.
Thank you so much for having me. Good to see you both.
Well, it was a tough one at the weekend, but a pretty good contest overall.
It was a little home contest during Indigenous round for us. Gold Coast Rollers top of the table. They're doing really good things across town for us, and unfortunate loss, but it was a great game.
Now, before we get stuck into just your journey, especially the last 12 months, talk to me about that first moment back on court, coming back from your injury, all the time rehabbing. You must have had a lot of emotions when you stepped out there.
Yeah, it was quite funny, really. I hadn't thought about it a lot in the immediate lead up to the game. I just, like riding a bike, I was kind of back into what a day of game looks like for me. And then we were up at Northside, and they called my number, and I went out there, and we were ready to roll. And I was actually, it felt a bit emotional. It was funny. I hadn't expected that. And then the ball went up, and it was back to normal. So all good.
Is there a sense of enjoyment more so coming back from an injury like that?
Obviously, when you're trying to make your way back, there's frustrating elements of it, but it would be primarily just excited and just really happy to be out there again and getting my feet underneath me.
Now, you mentioned the word frustration, which is, I think, a key, because anyone who goes through injuries is frustrated not being out there. But during that championship winning season for the Kings, when you're sitting on the sideline and early on when they're struggling a little bit and you can't be out there, does the frustration get more at a time like that than perhaps it does in a grand final series where you're like, man, I wish I could really be out here to help us get a ring? Which one is more frustrating, or do you just deal with it all in one?
Yeah, they kind of are as frustrating as each other, really. Like, if the team's struggling early, you want to be out there and helping them along. And then we turned the ship around, which was amazing, and we strung off all those wins, and then we were staring down the barrel of a championship, and you're just itching to be out there. So they were both frustrating in their own regard, but the team did an amazing job of keeping me involved, and I didn't feel like they'd left the station without me at all. But it was, frustrating at times, but that's life.
What I was so impressed about watching you on the sideline, I mean, in the bench, how just involved you were staying with the team. You were obviously a lot of energy on the side. Anyone who knows you knows you're a great character, but did you really say to yourself, okay, I can't play on the court right now, but I'm going to make sure I'm as invested as a Jalen Adams, I'm as invested as a Chase Buford to make sure that I can do whatever it takes to help this team win?
Well, first off, thank you for the shout out, Hools, during the second game. I got the heads up from some family members that I'd got a bit of attention on the bench, which is sometimes hard to do if you're not playing. And then I managed to, I think I was demolishing a packet of snakes at the time. So the camera cut to my face, and there I am picking snakes out of my teeth. It wasn't so much a conscious effort as it was, probably to the chagrin of the coaches. I wanted to sit at the top of the bench and say things into their ear that they maybe didn't notice, but they almost 100% did notice. But I was just happy to be involved and so excited for the boys, and the way we were playing was really to remain engaged. There's some things when you're out on the court that you just don't notice, and I tried to not do too much, but if there were little things that I could mention to Rel or Zave, I tried to do so as unannoyingly as possible, and it wasn't much of a help, I'm sure, but I was just happy to be there and contributing what I could.
Still a huge part of the championship and such a much loved and respected member of the Kings. Did the whole experience give you, a taste, a hunger to experience it yourself on court as a player?
Oh, it had me pretty itchy to be out there doing something similar, that's for sure. I love being on the Kings, and the mindset is 110% to run this back, and I'm planning to be involved a little more this year with with the process.
You're probably in one of the most unique situations, the best situation you can have as a young big man who already established himself in the league. We know what you did, second most improved the year before, but you've got Luke Longley hanging around, one of the greatest big men of all time in Australia. Bogue's heavily involved, greatest big man of all time in Australia. Daniel Kickett on the coaching staff. We know how successful he's been in the Kings. And now we're seeing Jarrell Martin, Xavier Cooks. Do you ever sit back and just think, there is no better spot for me to improve as a player and as a person than where I am right now as a big man?
Yeah, and I think fortunately I've been able to really realise how absurd, like the list of names that you just rattled off. I'm very lucky is how I consider myself with that. And yeah, every day it's just another Australian big legend that will guide me in a certain direction or help me out with something that I'm struggling with. And it's counting my lucky stars. I've been very fortunate.
Well, how much do you lean on them in maybe now in the NBL1 season, or do you have a little thing in your mind of what you want to get out of this season with the Seahawks? Obviously, you're back playing now. Is there certain things that you're trying to really finesse, or is it more just trying to get comfortable playing the game again, training all the time, and getting ready for an NBL season?
Yeah, the main priority is in my experience, when you're out for a period of time, it probably takes about the same amount of time to get that rust off. And so the main priority is getting that foot back underneath me and feeling good and doing things that rely quite heavily on instinct. Instincts back up. I'm probably going to have to go block that shot now. It's just kind of happening. From there, yeah, with the help of Luke and with Bogues and Kicks, but also Chase and Kev and Fleur, and just the whole team. The idea is to build habits that will help me with the Kings, and obviously within the framework of what our coach Luke Maguire wants up here. Fortunately, the ideas of what will help the Kings win have kind of aligned with what will help the Seahawks win up there. So building those good habits that I can hit the ground running when I get back to the NBL, and seeing if that helps the NBL1 team up here win a few games. And we're still yet to see how that unfolds.
Well, zeroing in on the Seahawks, as we've been talking about, you're a bright young talent in the NBL, and you've got a bright young talent from another NBL team as your point guard at the Seahawks. Tell us a bit about this on-court partnership.
Well, we've got two young budding point guards. My good friend Alex Madronia, who we spent a year together at St. Mary's, my last year there. He pops through town in Moraga, and Tamari Wigness is killing it as well. And he's gonna have a good job in the league next year. Both of them incredibly talented young guys who really get after it outside of training time, and it's awesome to see, having seen them play for a long time, them every day making those jumps. And Mud's been in and out with some injury niggles, so we're hoping to get him back on court. And yeah, I'm looking forward to really playing with him. He's a great pick and roll guard. He can score off it. He can create for us. Shooting the ball really well. So is Tamari. He's shooting the ball really well and an absolute rocket in transition. So they're both killing it.
Well, they're both bright emerging stars as yourself, who already has established yourself as a star. But before we let you go, I need to let the NBL1 fans know, what do you do away from basketball to try and relax? As a man who can admire some really nice facial hair, which you no doubt have, and is jealous of what you can produce on top of the head, you look like a man who likes to sit at a cafe and just unwind. What do you do in your off time?
Are you watching me quite closely while I'm up here, Hools?
Try to be.
I have a lot of family up on the Gold Coast, so it's no brainer to pop up here. But I will start most of my days. I put my laptop in a backpack and I'll ride a bike around the corner to a cafe, and I'll sit there most of the morning. So Yeah, and then I'll hit the gym. I'll go for a swim in the cruise home. It's how I no complaints at all. I'm just a little rattled that it was so easily pinpointed by you there, Hools.
I think it's something to do with the beards. I just had that. I can't look as good as that with collar shirt open.
Yeah, I put the cool blue light glasses on. yeah.
Well, you make that look good, and you make everything else look good you're doing on the court. It's one of the best stories of NBL1 season, seeing you back out there running around. Can't wait to see you back in the NBL, and good luck with the rest of the Seahawks, and good luck for everything else, mate. Thanks for joining us.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for having me, and can't wait to see what the Seahawks do with the rest of the season.
Let's take a look at NBL1 Central women's action now. Pete, we're going to start with the Bearcats.
Well, they sit second now after taking down the Southern Tigers 83-70. Big win.
West Adelaide's Madeline Muti had a massive double-double of 18 points and 22 rebounds in the win.
And the fourth place Forestville Eagles, they've beaten third place Sturt 69-61. It was a thriller. Could be a finals preview. We're hoping these two teams meet again when it matters most. Sam Simmons, we keep talking about her, 24 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, putting together some season, that is.
The NBL1 Central power couple, her and Jack.
Unbelievable.
From last
and
week.
they are both balling out.
Yeah.
They had big weekends.
They're going off. Norwood smashed North Adelaide 85-56. Norwood have now won 4 of their past 5 and are slowly creeping up into the upper echelons of the Central contenders. The Flames' Brooke Basham led the way with 31 points. But what about this triple-double from Alex Wilson? 14 points, 15 assists, 13 rebounds.
It's not a team you want to play. If the way they're playing and they get into the finals, they've just got 2 elite guards and they go about their business. So that's a big game from her, a big game from Brooke.
Let's move through to Central men's now. Pete, will start with the Woodville Warriors.
They're 10-1 and they remain the team to beat in the men's division. They beat Central's 108-73 and the Warriors had 4 different starters score 18 points or more, doing it by committee. But the one team they're going to have to worry about when it comes finals are the Eagles. You mentioned Jack Purchase. He's the guest last week. That power couple. He had 29 points and 11 assists in a near 30-point win over Sturt in a big game.
Adam Doyle, talk to me about veterans.
I mean, he just does his thing. He's had 13 assists to go with 14 points and 6 rebounds. When you're playing alongside Jack Purchase, these other guys, Daniel Johnson had 25 points. He's going to make sure they find the ball in his hands. And I will throw out really quickly that went over Jack Purchase's head last week in the interview because I was mentioning how you're throwing lobs. He was mentioning throwing it to Daniel Johnson, and I said, throwing lobs to Adam Doyle. Which, if anyone who doesn't understand Adam Doyle, he's probably about 4'8". He's a killer on the court, but he's not. And he pulled me up on it because I went over Jack's head. But they're an exciting team to watch. I expect them to go deep in finals.
I know you love fantasising about the National Conference final. You look at those players in that team and think, we'd like to see you on the big stage.
100%. I mean, Woodville right now 10-1, remain the team to beat. But if you keep that whole roster together, we know by the time players go into pre-season and stuff, but I'm sure they'd be flying in. That's a team that if they can win the Central Conference, they're going to make some noise in the National Conference.
Well, let's finish Central Conference chats now with South Adelaide.
Well, they beat Eastern Mavericks dominant fashion by 30 points, 102-72. Jared Hoppo, he had 31 points and 13 rebounds. Jeremy Smith had a poster dunk which sent social media alight. And we're seeing this from every different conference. We have a look right here. Need a cameraman right underneath that. And he was enjoying it. And why wouldn't you? I've never enjoyed much on the court like that because I'm not athletic like that.
That's debatable. Now, we like this time of the year because final spots are starting to get locked in, and it's exciting because it's the case in every conference. Hasn't been the case the last 2 years because of COVID. But our first team has locked in their final spot in NBL1 West Women's, and it is the Joondalup Wolves.
They're 13-0, so they've locked that in, defeating East Perth 105-70. Robbie Ryan led the way, 39 points and 14 rebounds in the win. It must be a nice feeling to have that locked away, but job's not finished. You've got to make sure that you finish off the season with momentum heading into finals.
Absolutely. The Willetton Tigers remain second on the ladder with a 10-1 record after beating Goldfields by 4 points.
Willetton, Sam Lubke, she had 25 points and 9 rebounds. The Tigers, they look like the major major threat coming after the Wolves. I'm looking forward to seeing that heat up down the stretch.
And in a big battle of top 8 sides, Rockingham defeated Perry Lakes 81-74. All 5 Rocky starters scored in double figures.
Taylor Ortler, she had 18 points. Sydney Flames recruit Emma Clark had 22 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists in the loss. But things are definitely heating up in the women's side out west.
And they are too in the men's as we continue our focus on the Wolves.
Joondalup, they improved to 10-3, equal second after defeating East Perth 83-61. But it was this block by Eagles' Michael Fashion that had everybody talking on the weekend. It might be an easy dunk, and just to come in, put yourself in a potential poster and get a block is always going to make it on a highlight reel.
And then Warwick second and Rocky third are locked in an intense top 4 battle. The Senators dominated Mandurah 95-71 with Caleb Davis leading the way with 24 points and 8 boards.
Rockingham went 1-1 over the weekend with a 102-93 loss to Perry Lakes, and then that big victory over Goldfields as well.
And then 12-1 and top of the table, Geraldton Buccaneers. That's my favourite nickname, the Buccaneers.
I have said that last year and you've stuck with it. I'm glad.
Yeah, no, I'm loyal. They kept rolling with a 94-69 win over Perth.
Sean Stewart, he had 19 points, 12 rebounds, 3 steals, while it was also Clayton Parfitt's 200th game with the club. So terrific milestone for him.
Well, let's head east now. We're going to start with NBL1 women and continuing her tear through the NBL1 East, one of our favourites.
Oh, it is. I might be a bit biased. One of the favourite players I love to watch on the basketball court, Lauren Nicholson. They beat Canberra 88-71. She had 28 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists and 6 steals. I said she's one of my favourite players, if not my favourite player to watch, just on both ends of the floor, just the way she goes about it. It's hard to deny their top 3 spot on the ladder, and if they really want to take this deep, it's going to be on the back of Loz Nicholson. Well,
we talk about Lawrence a lot in NBL1 East Women's, don't we? And let's talk about the GOAT. We mentioned her at the top of the show. She didn't play for Albury at the weekend, but they still managed to pull off a great win.
Their import, Unique Thompson, filled the shoes. She had 38 points and 10 rebounds, so big win without Lauren Jackson on the floor.
Hey, I want to shout out Michaela Domkins. We've talked about big numbers at the weekend, 35 points, 22 rebounds, 5 assists. For Maitland, we talked about Leilani Mitchell last week, the coach, that's her partner. They've got a newborn baby and a toddler. Leilani's coaching, Mick's putting up those numbers. And she did send me a pic of her pre-game breakfast before the game. She was having pancakes with some whipped cream out of the can. So, hey, if that works for 35-year-olds, you go, girl.
Absolutely, and balling out. Now, a battle in the middle of the ladder, 5th place Newcastle Falcons. They beat the Sea Eagles 75-73. What a game that was. Kyra Evans had 24 points, 17 rebounds in what is an important win for the Falcons.
Let's talk NBL1 East men's action now. And second place, Canberra escaped Sutherland with a 1-point win in a game where only 4 points were scored in the final 3 minutes.
Canberra's Glenn Morrison, he secured the win at the free throw line. Big win, much needed win.
North Bears beat the Bankstown Bruins 76-73. A super tight contest there.
Brendan Reimer, he had 23 points for the Bears and he had 8 of those in the final 90 seconds, hitting 5 free throws and a 3 to seal the win. That is a really good last minute and a half to make sure they get that win.
And the mid-range of the East ladder, competitive as it's been, with the 6th place Maitland beating 5th Inner West Bulls 109-103.
Mustangs James Hunter, he had 35 points and 12 rebounds. Looking like his old self. James Hunter, keep going. I know Big Jim. Good to see him out there.
Let's move on to NBL1 South Women's now. I want to start with a bit of news during the week. We've talked about Casey and the incredible impact they're having coming into NBL1 this season. They've announced that Abby Bishop will be playing for the rest of the season, which is a huge in for them. And they've signed a player as well, Steph Blitzarves, a champion in Siebel, NBL1, WNBL, had a baby 2 months ago, and she's going to suit up for the remainder of the season for the Cavs.
So exciting. I mean, Casey, they made a splash on both sides, but just what they're being able to put together, looking forward to seeing them all get on the court. And so another one expect is they climbed to 4th spot, went 2-0 on the weekend. They defeated Diamond Valley 82-66. Rachel Antoniadu, she had 25 points, 8 rebounds and 7 assists and a half court, nothing but net. There's something special about that. And she enjoyed that, and so she should. Yeah,
great celebrations as we've seen throughout the show today. On Sunday, they beat Launceston 105-91. Alice Kunek led the way with 27.7 rebounds and 6 assists.
Jade Melbourne, watch. I mean, what a season she's putting together. What a career she's already putting together. Helped Ballarat get a big win over Ringwood by 3 points. She had 23 points, a third of her total's team points, 11 rebounds as they maintain their top spot. in the top 8, sorry.
Now, we talk about regional rivalries, don't we? And you played for Ballarat. You know how big they are. Bendigo, Ballarat, Geelong. We've got a big one coming up this week.
We do. Bendigo and Geelong, they clash in a blockbuster on Friday night, and that's going to be really exciting. You mentioned the rivalries. It's real. Having played in, we get both against Bendigo and Geelong, they are very real, and I'm sure the crowd will turn out for that.
Well, it's time now to chat to one of the stars of NBL1 South Women's Action as we welcome to the show Sandringham's Britt Smart.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Now, you've quickly popped into your car because it is school holidays, and that means one thing for some basketballers: holiday camps.
Yeah, what I call a boliday camp.
So run us a bit through how busy that is now. Obviously, holidays, we're running in camps and stuff. It's full on, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We're running some Be Smart basketball camps where it's either rep, VJBL, NBL1, so basically the elite campers are coming in and working on individual go-to moves, flexibility, strength, something for themselves during the season. It can be kind of hard to doing just team stuff, which is fair enough. So we're just kind of trying to refine all of our individual stuff to bring confidence to really smash out the second half of the season. So it's full on, but I love it.
And then you're doing a collaboration, I think, next week with Maddie Garrick and MG Coaching. So that's pretty exciting. 2 superstars leading the next generation in skills.
Yeah, that's what I love. Maddie and I played together for 3 or 4 years. We've been friends. We've worked a lot together in the off season during COVID. And even though we're competitors, we actually would train together just for accountability. If she gets better, it's not like, oh no, my competitor's getting better. It makes me want to get better. So we both get better, and then the whole level and standard just continues to rise and get higher. So I'm looking forward to that camp as well. It's a collaboration, and we're just going to partner up and do things together and bring the basketball worlds together.
Well, you're getting better and better every week, if that's even possible. But like a good fine wine, you're averaging 22.4 points per game, but you had 40 against Waverley at the weekend. How are you finding your own campaign personally?
It's been fun. I came a bit late to the season. I'm just WNBL ending and me finally going home after 3 years. But I feel really comfortable at Sandringham. Jackie, the coach, has really instilled some belief in our team and in myself as leading the group on and off the court. But we're really trying to find our groove and try to find some consistency. And we have, obviously we have Fundo with other scorers who create space for me on the court as well. We have Georgia and Rachel Jerry inside, who's also they're lethal weapons as well. And having a 2-man game and a 1-2 punch with an inside-outside, we kind of just carry each other when one's not going or one's on. But mostly we're just instinctive, creative, which makes us, harder to scout, and unselfish. If someone's on, we really try and push them to keep going, and pretty humble attitude, I think, that our squad has.
Well, you've had such a tremendous WNBL career and basketball career in general. Do you have a different mindset coming into an NBL1 season, perhaps when, yes, you're around a club like Sandringham. Do you use this more on the court for NBL1 to try and get other people better, maybe take the young girls, the emerging stars, under your wing? And does it change the way that you attack the game in an NBL1 season compared to the WNBL?
Yeah, I think there's a different type of mentality. NBL1, you're a little bit more spread out as far as, yes, you individually want to do well, but do I have the ability to also bring those younger players and be able to win and reach our potential, whether that's a win or a loss, reach our potential in that moment, in that game, and be able to find a chemistry, give them confidence. How can I make my teammates better? So it's definitely more of that team thing. You also know the ball is probably going to be in your hands a bit more. So, making those decisions on when to get others involved, when to get yourself going. It's always, it's a hard part, but it's fun. It's a fun challenge to have. WNBL, all that energy probably goes into one specific niche, whether that's shooting or creating or purely offensive or defense, or, you still have to be an all-around player, but there's definitely more of that thing of trying to bridge the gap between fully professional and veterans to people who are just an upcoming. And do you have the ability to create a solid team, not just worry about your individual, kind of play.
Well, and you can kind of see that with the way that you go about your business, and you can also see it from this interview. Now, you're in the middle of coaching a camp, and you mentioned what type of camp it is. You seem to get so much enjoyment from refining these skills because you're now teaching these elite young players on skills that you are still perfecting yourself. Is it more fun doing a camp like this than perhaps it is the real young ones just trying to get a ball in their hands at a young age?
I mean, there's pros and cons of both, but obviously, yeah, you know, a lot of these fundamentals and stuff, like I'm still doing and refining and figuring out what's worked for me and what hasn't worked for me over the years. So even the Be Smart methodology, I've done it first. Does this work? Am I reaching my potential? Oh, this is something that could really help other people, and I want to be able to share that because mentors have shared that with me. And I think it's a lot of what people are missing these days: basketball-specific strength, flexibility for basketballers. It just makes you more versatile. So now you're able to play in multiple countries and multiple teams. Whatever your role is, you feel like you're prepared for that. So obviously, I'm really passionate about it, but they keep me accountable too. You know, I got to be able to demo and show these kids how to do it. So they keep me young.
I love the passion, and I hope players in the NBL1, WNBL, NBL, juniors are watching this because it oozes out of you, Britt, and that's what I love. We saw you knocking down some threes there for Sandringham. It was very much what you were doing in the past WNBL season for Canberra, but your passion for teaching, it's going to play a huge part this upcoming WNBL season. You're basically like a playing sort of assistant coach because it's a very young Caps team, but you've got some of the most exciting young talent in Australia in that side.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. We do have young kids, but eager to learn and willingness to learn and hustle and work hard. You just don't know where they could be or how quickly they could just really catch on. So that's really exciting, which gives the older players like myself, that keeps me accountable and me wanting to learn and teach. So I'll learn a lot from them. We'll learn a lot from each other. But this upcoming Caps season, yes, it's going to be a lot of change, but they just still have just a nice, you know, a winning, deep, rich culture in there. And I think Veely, as the coach, she's been a hardworking, humble player in over multiple countries. So we're going to be able to learn a lot from her as well. So I'm really looking forward to this upcoming season and some surprises. It's going to be up and down, but I really have belief in the squad that we put together so far.
We can't wait to see that, and especially with you controlling everything and helping these youngsters. Before we let you go, you just mentioned before we started about how you went back home after a long time. We know what happened in Australia, around the world. How was that to finally get back home, have a little bit of a break, maybe switch off from professional basketball for a little bit and be around family, loved ones?
It was awesome. Just being around the loved ones and, you know, blood-related people. You just kind of need to see them every now and again, you know, being so far away. I met a nephew that I hadn't even met before that was born during COVID. So a lot of that gave me energy. I was in Florida for the first 2 weeks and I didn't have a basketball hoop, but I played outdoor driveway basketball. I was out there doing moves. I can't get away from it, being creative, reinventing myself for what I can do for my clients. And then my dad's a coach. So when I went to Ohio for 2 weeks, he put me through some sessions. So, you know, but it was a good break in the fact of I could do it when I wanted to do it. I could have some fun with it, be around family and see some old college mates as well. And it was a good time.
She's the best. I love you, Britt Smart. Honestly, who needs coffee in the morning? She's just energy, passion, motivation. So great to chat. Especially when you're coaching kids.
I bet.
Thank you for joining us. We'll let you jump out of the car and get back into your coaching. Good luck for the rest of the NBL1 season.
Thanks, guys. Be smart out there.
Let's finish off with NBL1 South men's action now. Pete, a game of the year contender and a battle between top two sides.
Look, this might have been a little bit surprising. Macambi has been absolutely flying. Now, here we go, Harry Froling, ripping baseline with the posted dunk. He loved it. I love it. It's a 9-foot rim. Doesn't matter. That's a big dunk from Harry Froling, who put in some performance. He had 43 points, 16 rebounds. Michael Harris for the Pioneers had 32 and 7. On Mount Gambier's home floor in the Ice House, the roster now that everyone is together in Hobart is legit. I'm expecting them to have a really strong finish to the season. What a game from Harry. A big dunk. I mentioned it earlier. Everyone knows that it's a smaller rim down that side in the Ice House. Doesn't matter. You still got to throw it down. And he did on somebody as well.
Jeez, the Ice House would be icy at the moment.
It would be freezing at the moment. Absolutely.
Someone who is hot, though, is NBL1 hopeful Alex Robinson Jr. He continues to light it up for Knox.
Had 29 points, 5 rebounds and 3 assists. They did lose to Dandenong, but he is having some season. I know you highlighted him a couple of weeks ago, and he's delivering night in, night out.
But Dandenong keep getting some big wins, don't they? With Sam Woosnam, we love her as head coach.
Oh, she's one of, if not the main reason, the way Dandenong are playing the way that she is. I'm so glad and so happy for her. Ringwood, they had an important win over Ballarat to stay in touch with the top 8. Emmett Nah is back and doing his thing. He had 20 points and 13 rebounds, hanging around for some cheapies, young Emmett Nah on the ring.
Let's talk wildcard action now. We'll start with the men's COE.
Well, they had a game postponed due to health and safety protocols, but the women were still in action. They suffered 2 losses. First to Frankston, they lost by 8, and then to Knox, they got blown out in that one. But Dallas Lowridge, she had 22 points over the 2 games.
Great to see her shining, and then the Raiders have utilised the wild card format to their advantage, shooting to the top of the wild card ladder to possibly sneak into the NBL1 Coles Express National Final if they miss the top 8 of the South Conference.
Might be a little confusing what's happening with the wild card, everyone, but make sure you stay tuned to social to go to the website. It'll be easily explained. Or if you still can't understand it, wait a couple of weeks once you get there and then it'll all make sense. But it's exciting. It's just another addition to the full national finals that I just cannot wait for.
Maybe next week we could have sort of our background, the explainer, and we could get a pointer and point to how it works.
I'm 100% locked in, but I'll leave that for you to do the research to make sure that you bring, and I'll just jump on board.
I love a pointer. Let's finish with some fantastic news for a former NBL1 face.
Oh, Dyson Daniels, what a story. We highlighted last week the draft in the NBA. Went 8th overall to the Pelicans. Here he is playing for Bendigo, just a young fella. Look at him on the court there compared to where you see him walk out on stage with Adam Silver. He is shot up into his body. And to be honest, I'm no NBA expert, but what I see him being able to do at the Pelicans, the perfect fit. I think it's a great pick for him, alongside CJ McCullum, who's there on draft night. So we're really excited to see what can happen with his future. And Australian basketball, if it wasn't already on the map, it is definitely on the map right now.
Geez, it was a fair day for Bendigo with Dyson going into the draft, and then the Spirit dropping the news late in the day that Kelsey Griffin is returning to the Spirit next season. So we know she's been heating it up for Launceston in NBL1, Kelsey Griffin, Keely Froling, Mariana Tolo.
It's all happening. It's all happening. It is all. You're right. It's all happening in Bendigo. Might be a few sleepless nights and heads down there on the weekend.
Thanks for joining us on the NBL1 show. Thanks to Coles Express. Enjoy a huge weekend of basketball coming up. We'll see you next week.
It's one shot, now the future is yours. Go!